Welcome to this episode of The Wisdom of Paramahansa Yogananda, brought to you by Self-Realization Fellowship, where each week you can receive inspiration and guidance from Paramahansa Yogananda's Kriya Yoga teachings. This talk is titled Transform Your Life by Secret Whispers to God by Brother Satyananda.
Good morning. Have you noticed the same cycle of thoughts going around and around in your mind every day? It's like, oh, those thoughts again. They keep coming back around, and the same emotional feeling responses, they keep coming back around. There are repeat patterns going through our consciousness. We need a new flow. Do you ever feel that way? I need a new flow. I need a new flow of thoughts. I need a new flow of feelings. And this is what meditation in the morning does for us. It gives us a refresh of consciousness, and it opens the door for a new flow. You will see it happening on the days when you have a little sacred moment in meditation to start the day. New thoughts start to enter in. New feelings start to refresh within you, and you realize that there's a new flow going. So we need a new flow, don't we? We can't just live with the same old, same old. We go through that in our daily life and the routine things that happen, the environments that we must endure. But within ourselves, this is what determines our experience, is the patterns of thoughts and emotions. And we can change that flow. So meditation will help to open the doors and create a new flow of consciousness that is so much more rewarding and gives us an elevated experience. We had a wonderful sacred moment in meditation, didn't we, together? Could you feel it? We did the same at the Thanksgiving interfaith service over at the Corpus Christi Catholic Church on Monday evening. We have a traditional annual interfaith Thanksgiving service. We had clergy represented from churches, synagogues, temples here in the West Side. It was a wonderful congregation, a wonderful event. The clergy was sharing a little bit of their inspiration of the season, and they asked me to lead a short meditation, short guided meditation. And I started the meditation by saying, let's create a sacred moment together. And that was what I got so many comments about afterwards. It was like, wow, create a sacred moment. I didn't know I could do that. And a sacred moment, could I do that at home? Well, yes. So that's something that we need, isn't it? Creating a sacred moment, especially first thing in the morning. It will make the day go that much better. So we're talking this morning about creating sacred moments by whispering secretly to God and listening for God's response. I'd like to start with a story of Bhagavan Krishna. I love to tell stories of Krishna. He's at the center, right next to Jesus Christ. Both of them have amazing life narratives, and Krishna's is particularly well documented, both as a child and as an adult. I love both child and adult stories. This morning I'm telling one of my favorite childhood stories of Krishna. So Krishna grew up in a rural town, Vrindavan, right next to the Jamuna River. It was a rural town with a pastoral setting. The children, would take care of the cows and the sheep during the day, and there was a small community there. Yashoda is Krishna's mother, and this takes place when Krishna is a little baby. And every morning there was kind of a sacred moment between mom and baby where mother would bathe Krishna and, hot water in the bath, and she would rub him down and soap him. And while she was bathing him, she would talk to him. She would tell him how much she loved him and how special he is. And Krishna loved all the attention. And then she would, Yashoda Ma would take him out of the bath and she would pat him down. And like mothers still do in India today, she would rub the baby down with, a blend of oils. I don't know if you've noticed, but Indians tend to have a beautiful golden, soft complexion that comes, I was told, by this oil rubbing massage that their mothers give them when they're little that lasts for a lifetime. And Krishna loved this. He loved it. He loved all the attention. He loved the sweet conversation. And the story takes place now when one morning Yashoda was calling Krishna for the bath. This morning was a little different because Yashoda Ma was going to market today. She was kind of thinking about market, what she was going to buy, and all the wonderful gossip she was going to share with the others and stories that she would tell. And her mind was not on bathing Krishna. And Krishna could feel it. He wasn't getting the love that he was used to. And so he started acting out and splashing water on his mother. Krishna, be a good boy, behave yourself. But he wasn't feeling the love. And so he wasn't happy, and the mother was finishing up the bath really quickly. She patted him down dry. She skipped the oil massage, got him dressed, and said, "Now you go off over there and be a good boy and mind yourself, behave well." And then she busied herself with getting ready for market. A small house, but she walked around and she put everything in order. She got herself dressed, and then she went to her jewelry box to put on what most women have in India is the nose ring, a nut. And it wasn't there. She always keeps it in the safe spot, and she always wears it when she goes out. And she says, "Where's my nose ring? Where's my nut? How could I possibly misplaced it?" And she looks everywhere. She goes through all the shelves and everything. Maybe it got dropped here, maybe it got lost here. And finally she says, "Somewhere it is, and I don't know." And she looks over. Krishna's standing in a corner, and he's kind of looking like this. And she looks at him, and he looks down. He won't look at her. And she says, Krishna, do you have my nut?" Krishna looks away, and he kind of smiles. And she knows now that he's playing hide and seek with her. "Krishna, you can't hide my nut. I need it. I'm going to town today. I don't have much time. The ladies are going to be waiting." He ignores her. "Krishna," now she gets demanding. "Krishna, you have to give it to me. This is really important. You can't be playing games like this right now, Krishna." He refuses. She gets angry. "Krishna, you are a naughty boy." He folds his arms and he's, refuses to cooperate. And then finally she pleads, "Oh, Krishna, please don't do this right now. This isn't fair. You don't treat Mama this way." Krishna doesn't give in. So she gets an idea, and she goes and sits on a pillow. She says, "Krishna, come here. Come here, darling. Come and sit on my lap." Now, Krishna knows he's being manipulated, but he can't help it because he wants the love. He wants the attention. "Krishna, come on." She coaxes him, and gradually he walks over and he stands next to her, and then she takes him up onto her lap and she starts stroking him, and she strokes his hair and she starts whispering in his ear, "Krishna, I love you. You're my only little boy. You're my special little boy. You will always be, first in my life." And then because she recognizes the divinity in Krishna, she goes into joy of loving God while she's talking to him. And he's just in bliss. And so Mama and baby are in this sacred moment together. And then Krishna reaches down into his little dhoti and he pulls out her nose ring. And he has a nut and he just puts it in her hand. And that's the story. Isn't it sweet? She went through the whole gamut of emotions and strategies trying to get what she wanted. She tried demanding, she tried, getting angry, threatening him, pleading with him, and then finally coaxing him through love. And it was the coaxing through love that finally solved the problem. And I think this is a beautiful message for us too, because, we have a problem, issue with a relationship or intractable situation. And we go the full gamut, impatience and demands and anger and, And then finally, the idea is that if we can, feel love and we can approach the situation with love, then we will finally get the resolution that we need and we want. So it is this kind of a sweet, loving response that brings the final result. I met a little girl named Julia in the lobby a while ago, and she was very prim and proper and standing only, a couple of feet high. She was standing next to her mother, and I looked down and I saw that on her wrist she had painted a Mendi henna bracelet. It was professionally done, and it was little butterflies that went around her wrist. And I admired it, and I said, "Oh, that's a beautiful henna bracelet." And her mother said, "Well, this is very special for Julia." I said, "Really? Why is it special?" She said, "Mama said, I don't know. It's a secret. She won't tell me." Well, I like secrets. So I got down close to Julia and I said, "That's a beautiful, henna bracelet." She smiled. And I said, "Why is it so special?" She kind of smiled, but she wouldn't tell me. I said, "Look, I like secrets and I can keep secrets if you tell me." And I could tell that I was getting through to her. And then finally she reached up her head and she whispered in my ear, "It helps me remember to think of God." Isn't that beautiful? So this is a secret. Don't tell Julia. But there it is. Secrets with God. Paramahansa Ji says, this is from the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, verse 30. "He who watches me always, him do I watch. He never loses sight of me, nor do I ever lose sight of him." And Paramahansa Ji says, "No doubt it seems a most difficult accomplishment to remember God in the pressure of our many activities. But see how the Lord is assuring us. He says, he who watches me always and who looks for me during the little gaps of leisure hours, who seeks me in the hearts of flowers, who searches me out of friendship and divine love, he shall find me. I am with him always. He shall never lose sight of me, nor will I ever lose sight of him." So there is this intimate, sweet connection again that is being cultivated, and the scriptures are even affirming that if we take this approach, then we will always get the kind of sweet, complete response that we need to live a quality life, to feel close to God and the universe, and to be successful in our endeavors. How many thoughts do you think a day? Do you know? Science has tested and speculated, and science says that, intelligent people can think up to 60,000 thoughts a day. Now, all of you are really brilliant, so you're probably thinking 100,000 thoughts a day. That's amazing, isn't it? 60,000 thoughts a day. Day by day, through our thoughts, we create our own destiny. It is these little thoughts that create our future. And Paramahansa Yogananda acknowledges and says, "Are you happy with your thoughts? What are those 60,000 about? Are you satisfied? Are they kind of routine boring? Are they kind of self-destructive? Are they creating an uncertain and anxious future? How much time do we spend in patterns of worry?" 60,000 thoughts a day. That's almost 2 million a month. That's a strong affirmation, folks. A very strong affirmation. And Paramahansa Yogananda says we can make a change by what he calls whispering to God. Whispering to God. And he has a beautiful book. You've seen it, those of you who are on this path, Whispers from Eternity. And he has composed in here beautiful thoughts that can be silently and inwardly whispered to God. But the beautiful thing here is it's a two-way flow. We are initiating a two-way flow. We whisper to God, and God whispers back. So the title really speaks to God whispering to us, Whispers from Eternity. We are making an offering, and the offering is coming back, and we are receiving according to what we give. So it's not only your silent, secret invocation that you make, but it's also the power of devotional repetition. This is part of the metaphysical science of Raja Yoga. And it awakens in us a sleeping divinity. And as we are making our devotional whispers to God, our secret messaging, God begins to respond. We open a door, a new flow. It's a two-way flow where we are offering whispers and God is whispering back. So God is as close as our thought allows him to be. And the question is, how close do you want God to be? These are your thoughts. These are your patterns. This is your whispering. Are we drawing God close, or are we pushing God away with the patterns of our thoughts? So when you first start practicing inner whispering, it seems kind of weak and, not strong enough to make a change. And yet as you invest yourself a little bit more and a little bit more, all of a sudden it develops a stronger flow. And the silent repetition develops strength. And as this begins to grow and expand, we begin to feel a shift within our consciousness. We are actually taking initiative with the patterns of our thoughts. And that's when we recognize that normally you're very passive. It's like, boring thoughts. I hope it's more exciting tomorrow. All of these, terrible emotions that I'm suffering with, I hope I'm in a better mood tomorrow. We're very passive about it, aren't we? And that's not the teaching of yoga. Yoga is saying, take charge of your consciousness. Take charge of your thoughts. And you can make a change that you will like very much. I was talking with a young woman this week, 1,000 miles across the US, and she was complaining and saying, I'm in the middle of an environment, brother, that, is not supportive of my spirituality. I don't know what to do about it because I feel myself getting dragged down, and I think I've lost my inner connection. What can I do? And I asked her, I said, is there an affirmation that you have used in the past that really touched your heart? And she said, oh, yes. I said, what is it? She said, and she quoted the chant that we were chanting this morning. Thou art my life, thou art my love, thou art the sweetness which I seek. I said, that's beautiful, say it again. She said it again, and then she paused and she said, I'm feeling better already. There you are. Changing the nature of our thoughts has a powerful effect. And we're very passive about it normally. Why can't we be proactive? Paramahansa Yogananda said, supplications to the indwelling spirit should be made with intense fervor. They will be answered by soul whispers, silent, mysterious responses that quickly transform one's life. That's the response from God. Whispers from eternity. As a young monk, I lived at the Mother Center in downtown Los Angeles, and there was a wonderful, elderly, sweet nun, first-generation disciple. She had spent some time with Paramahansa Yogananda, and I would stop by her office every now and then. It was easily accessible from the outside. I would look in her window, and I would see her there, and then I'd kind of go in through a little doorway she left open, and I would sit, and she would tell me stories, and we would talk. I remember one day I was walking by and I had all kinds of unfinished business on my mind and I was worried about deadlines. And I saw her, through the curtain. And so I thought, well, let me go sit next to Sister for a few minutes. And I walked in and I came into the room and I noticed she was sitting very still. Her eyes were closed and only her lips were moving. She was practicing japa yoga, invoking the name of God. And so I sat down at the chair next to her desk, and Kat was asleep on top of the papers on her desk, and the sun was shining in, and it was just me and the cat. And we were watching Sister practicing her japa yoga. And then I realized that I wasn't worried anymore. The stress thoughts were gone. There was a vibration of healing peace that was surrounding her and filling the space. And she was just quietly there with her eyes closed, hands in her lap, and her lips were moving. And I just enjoyed the sacred moment for a little while. And then I left, and the rest of the day was fantastic. So there we are. We can transform the nature of our thoughts, which then transforms the nature of our experience. And it can be healing. Healing in our thought patterns, healing in our emotional responses, and we feel elevated and lifted up. So devotional whisper is a secret, intimate experience. We whisper with earnest intensity, and then we listen and wait, and we feel God's response. Our late President, Sri Dayamata, says very beautifully, the most effective way to achieve constant communion with God is to inwardly talk to Him with all your heart. If every one of you from this day forward were to get in the habit of practicing that silent communion and conversation with God, faithfully waiting and listening, you would see how He answers the call of your heart. This is simple, isn't it? It's very simple, but it's actually quite profound. Because it's something we can do, it's something we know, and it's something that actually we have control of, more than we think. We have no control or very little control over our environment. We cannot control the behaviors and the thoughts of others, but we can control our own patterns of thoughts and feelings, and either draw God close or through our choices, push God away. The classic Jewish lore joke is, God said to Abraham, Abraham, if not for me, you would not be here. And Abraham answered, oh, I know that, Lord, and you are great. But if I were not here, there would be no one to think of you. So here we have it, 60,000 thoughts. Maybe we could call it 60,000 thought opportunities. That sounds a little bit more promising, doesn't it? It's not fixed. Doesn't have to be the way it is. In fact, it was created to change. Things get stale. We want something new. We want a fresh flow. We can create a fresh flow. 60,000 thought opportunities. Here's a true story. Businessman is taking a commuter flight, and he has all kinds of business on his mind, activities and things he's going to be doing. He's on the phone, he's working out, networking his solutions for the day, working out the agenda for the meetings. He stands in the queue, he gets on the plane, he stows away his baggage, puts his briefcase out, gets out some important papers, puts that in the loft, and then he sits down in his seat, he buckles up, he organizes his papers, he gets off the phone, shuts down, takes a deep breath, and looks over to his seatmate. Who does he see sitting next to him? Mother Teresa. Mother Teresa sitting next to you on the plane. She's sitting there very quietly in her, her hooded robe and everything. She has her eyes closed, her head bowed, and in her lap, open on her palm, is a rosary. Her lips are moving quietly. She's reciting the rosary on the plane. He's Catholic. He takes a deep breath. He looks back straight ahead. When was the last time I was in church? When was the last time I went to Mass? When did I last take the sacrament? Can I even remember practicing the rosary? This all comes back in a moment of truth. And he feels, the full impact of it. And then according to the story, he turns to Mother Teresa and just goes into confession. Sounds apocryphal, but, according to the Archdiocese of Kansas City, it's a true story. And he said, Mother, I'm a fallen Catholic. I've kind of lost my faith, and business has been bad, and I've been worried about other things. And, then he starts making his confession and so forth, and she just sits there quietly and kind of keeps practicing her rosary. And then he says, I'm so inspired by you practicing your rosary here on the plane that I want to make a promise to you that I will practice my rosary going forward. And then, according to the story, she smiles and she takes her rosary and she puts it in his hand. And she says, now maybe you will practice a little more often. Isn't that sweet? Yeah. Silently whispering to God, it can make a change. And it can create a change within us that we like very much. And we will start to realize that we are not as helpless as we think. This is our sad dilemma, that we think we are victims. And we blame it on the world. And of course, the world plays a role. It doesn't set a good example for us. But we are the ones who are interpreting and making choices and responding. And that's where the real power lies. So if you want to make a shift, if you want to create a new flow, start working with these 60,000 thoughts. Silent whispers to God. It's your choice. You can draw God close. And by drawing God close, you can create a little miraculous change. Something that uplifts the heart, refreshes the mind, and helps you to feel the connection that you want. So 60,000 thoughts a day is weaving God into your daily life. It's like a tapestry. Our thoughts are a tapestry. We are creating a tapestry of life with our thoughts. You see a beautiful needlepoint pillow, and it's like millions of stitches. And the millions of stitches together create this little panorama, this little vignette of color and beauty. Tapestry, you're weaving a tapestry. It's all the thousands of threads that go together that make the tapestry beautiful. A Navajo girl in a Native American trading post was at a loom weaving a Navajo rug, a beautiful rug. Trading post was empty except for her, and a tourist was watching. Tourist was watching her as she was weaving, and the tourist leaned over and said to the little girl, "What do you do when you make a mistake?" And she looked up and she said, "Oh, I do as Papa tells me. If I make a mistake, I just weave it in." Profound, isn't it? Very simple, but profound. Life happens. We do our best. We weave it in. We just weave it in. We don't have to live with it. We don't have to belabor it. We don't have to go into sorrowful drama over it. Maybe some healing needs to take place, but try to weave it in. And as we lift up the patterns of thoughts with little devotional whispers, all of a sudden it becomes part of our story. It's part of our narrative, but it is a part of our growth. That's what we want our experiences to be. We're never going to forget it. It's always going to be there. Any loss is always part of our story, but we want it to be part of our growth. And by lifting it up with whispers, this is what happens. We spiritualize our experiences. I don't know about you, but I love the Indian saris that women wear. The cloth is very famous and beautiful patterns, rich patterns. I actually like the saris that have really dark colors. They have like a dark, blue, marine blue, a dark brown, rich brown with wonderful patterns, deep reds. And the very special saris have dark colors with a gold embroidery. And so the gold embroidery really stands out. So the gold patterns on top of the dark brown, you will see. And these tend to be worn on special occasions. And in some traditions, the gold thread on top of the dark cloth represents Japa Yoga, the thought of God. And in fact, this is quite amazing because we go through experiences in life and sometimes the panorama is dark. And the message here is, we've in gold threads of japa, of whispering God's name. And suddenly a dark experience can become rich and even beautiful by contrast. So this is something that we can work with because the mind wants to take a dive when experiences go south. We can resist. We have that power. We are the only ones to exercise it. And we can say, let me add some gold thread. Let me stitch in some, thoughts of God and highlight my experiences. And then we find, we can have sacred moments even when there is suffering. Is this good? Is this helpful? It's wonderful to contemplate because it's both simple and profound at the same time. And we're not talking about just offering devotion. We're talking about creating an energy that generates a response. So it's a two-way flow. We need this. We need this. We need the two-way flow. That's what develops connection. Paramahansa Yogananda has a beautiful poem called God, God, God. It's a favorite among those who walk this path. Personally, I've memorized it. I really encourage all of you to consider the art of memorizing mystical poetry. It's amazing. You can repeat it to yourself, when your thoughts are going south, and it becomes a beautiful golden japa yoga. God, God, God is the idea of taking that repetitive whispering thought from the morning, waking up into your day, going through problems of the day, coming into the evening, taking it to bed at night. And one of my favorite verses, he says, "When my mind weaves dreams with threads of memories, on that magic cloth I do emboss God, God, God." So there we have it. Even in poetic language, the avatar is saying to us, don't be satisfied. Don't be satisfied with your routine patterns of thoughts. Lift yourself up. And you can do it most easily by choosing these devotional whispers to God and increasing the devotional intensity until you begin to feel that response. Kabir is a well-known mystic from 14th century India. He was a weaver in Benares, and he used to sit outside of his humble little shop, and he would weave and he would sing praises while he was weaving. He sang, "Oh, while engaged in my weaving, I have realized my own true self. Sublime and imperishable is the wealth that I have earned, and I have gained the state of perfect peace. O Lord, I am a weaver of thy name. I have firmly strung my loom with 1,000 threads. O Lord, I am a weaver of thy holy name." So this is a very old concept, practiced by bhaktis, by devotees, by those who have realized that just, struggling with the mind and, the conditions of life is not going to produce the ultimate happiness, have found these, quick secret solutions that when we apply them, they have a lasting effect. So a little spiritual homework, can you guess? Yeah, a little spiritual homework. It's very personal. You'll have to make it your own. But, back to baby Krishna and Yashoda, we go through the gamut, the whole full spectrum of reactive emotions, trying to get what we feel is right and work out right solutions. Eventually, we end up with loving thoughts, loving persuasion, and we find that produces the ultimate. Start by being just aware of your patterns. Don't, dive into it. That's kind of dirty business. Just be aware and then say, okay, let me try inserting a little bit of silent whispers to God during the day. And then see what happens. You can be doing all kinds of crazy stuff and be enduring all kinds of chaos, and the mind is starting to go along with it. And then wait. Let me just start whispering loving thoughts to God. And you take a quiet moment, get it started, and then carry it forward. Beautiful thing is, if you forget, ask God to remind you. This is my own personal testimony. I ask God, remind me. And I'll be in the middle of the battle of life, and all of a sudden, I'm here. And then I can take a deep breath and exhale, and then I can begin, the whispering. God loves to answer a prayer like this. God loves to remind us to think of him. So this is a two-way exchange. It's a two-way exchange, and we are learning as we go. Give yourself the space to learn and grow. And be patient with yourself, but be steadfast in your application. And as you go, gradually increase the strength. You don't have it in the beginning, but you will have it if you practice it and you invest in it. And you will know that as you begin practicing your whispers, your japa yoga during the day, situations can be very complicated, very difficult, very demanding, and yet within you, there is a wonderful feeling. Don't we all want that? And we can have that in the face of great obstacles, great difficulties. Thou art my life. Thou art my love. Thou art the sweetness which I seek. And then we can feel God coming back to us, saying to us, you are my life. You are my love. You are the sweetness that we share. So continue these whispers, and when a new feeling starts to flow, then you know that you are embossing with gold thread. A new flow is open. The doors of the soul have opened. The experiences without may be still the same. But inwardly, everything has changed. Everything has shifted. Paramahansa Yogananda says, think constantly of your connection with eternal life, and you shall know your identity with the Supreme Eternal One. So the summary message is very simple. Your life is a tapestry. We've got in.
This has been a production of Self-Realization Fellowship, a non-profit organization founded by Paramahansa Yogananda in 1920. For more information about Self-Realization Fellowship and Paramahansa Yogananda, please visit yogananda.org.